What's going on, Fresh Baked? I am in New Orleans Square, and the video that I am in the process of making right now it's kind of a difficult one for me because I've got feelings about it that are gonna go they're gonna go unanswered, I think. You may have heard by now that Disneyland is in the process of doing some renovations to New Orleans Square, specifically the areas between Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion, specifically the walkways between Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion. Yesterday, Pirates of the Caribbean closed, and it's going to be closed for the next couple of months. I'm hearing anywhere from the end of May to possibly June. There are varying reports on that. But part of this renovation to Pirates is also renovation to New Orleans Square. As a matter of fact, you can kind of see the beginnings of that here. You can see those construction walls right there. Mice Chat is reporting that, or had reported, and also the Orange County Register for that matter, that Disney's plan is to flatten certain parts of New Orleans Square, and that word flatten scares me. As best as I can tell from what's being reported on Mice Chat and the Orange County Register is that they're trying to improve the walkways here as we're looking at this between Pirates of the Caribbean. You know how they have that extended queue that goes up the bridge, and on this side right here it'll turn around to the bridge, but sometimes that extended queue will cross the street, as it were, right here. It'll cross the street and start getting into the walkways of New Orleans Square, and you've probably seen in the past, right about where those brick steps are, there's elevated areas up there where the Pirates of the Caribbean queue would extend. And when it's extended, they use ropes to extend that queue, and they'll put it right here in the walkway, right here on this side of that green wall that's out there right now. And it'll run the length of New Orleans Square all the way to, well, right about where I'm standing right here, to as you approach Haunted Mansion. Many times, actually, it's interesting, when the park is really busy, the Pirates queue and the Haunted Mansion extended queue can sometimes meet, and it gets really weird. You know, actually, before we get into what else they have planned and what that means to me, it did bring to mind, in our last video, we were mentioning, the original entrance and how that thing happened, or you might have noticed in that original entrance to Pirates that there was no bridge, that none of this, this little walkway above didn't exist. You would go directly from this path, this walkway, straight into the attraction, and there was nothing in your way, straight to the door. And it makes me wonder, where do they think they were going to put those guests? That is the most inefficient. I can't imagine what crowds must have been like, in the early times of Pirates of the Caribbean. They didn't put that bridge in there until the 90s. I think the early 90s, I want to say. Late 80s, early 90s. My guess is probably Fantasmic is what finally, and that's what this is about today too, but it's probably Fantasmic that made them change how these guests accumulate in front of Pirates of the Caribbean, because that caused a problem. Where do they put all those guests out here? I don't know. But luckily, they did build this bridge, and it did create that sort of atrium out front where they could corral guests in there. And then now you've got, even more guests that populate the rest of New Orleans Square. Now, I mentioned some other changes. They use the term flattening in the Mice Chat article, and I have to assume what they mean is this multi-layered effect that is happening in New Orleans Square in different places. You've got this level here, then you've got the kind of the middle one there, and then you go up again to this walkway that takes you to Haunted Mansion, and then another defined area up here with those sectioned elevated areas that we talked about, and that's where the Pirates queue gets extended, is up in here. And that's the part that's got me a little bit scared, a little bit nervous, because, well, I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but personally, the layers to New Orleans Square is everything for me. I find it to be wonderful. It is the reason why I love New Orleans Square, because it adds so much character and personality. I don't want a big, flat, empty space with a bunch of people so they could build an exterior queue. I don't want that. I can't imagine people would. Apologies for the voiceover here, as I lost some of my recordings from this day, but this is where I said that perhaps things are not as bad as they seem. Per the OC Register, all the Fantasmic viewing platforms would remain unchanged, with trees and green space reintroduced after the work is complete. Now, what would constitute a Fantasmic viewing platform. Most of the seating is on the rail, right up against the Rivers of America, but I wouldn't call that a platform. I have to assume that they mean places like this. This is an elevated spot where I'm pretty sure they do put Fantasmic guests here to watch the show as it's being performed right here in front of you on the Rivers of America. In fact, just standing here now and taking a look at what I'm seeing, this gives me more confidence that they won't be affecting this particular area right here, because this right here is this is a light fixture for Fantasmic. This thing opens up and a big giant light comes up out of this floor and projects and shows lights here. So this, I have a feeling, will remain unchanged, which is good. As a matter of fact, there was a photo in that Mice Chat article from right here, where we're looking at, where they're showing the split in New Orleans Square. There's the lower half that faces the Rivers of America, and then to the left of this right here, it gets elevated, and this becomes a raised area over the lower one, right? And then there's another raised area over here. I was wondering if that was premeditated, if they chose that spot to give an inclination, to give an idea of where the effective changes were going to be, but I have a feeling that that's not accurate based on what we just saw. This, by the way, I love this. I love that the way that they bisect this part of the walkway here. I mean, for no other reason than it's cool. Like, you can choose a path, like which way's quicker or whatever, just kind of make your decision. If you're going to go towards Royal Street, you're going to make that left right here. If you're going to go towards, let's say, Haunted Mansion, or you're going to Galaxy's Edge, you're going to take the lower path. But choosing a side, as we are now, creates a whole different perspective. Getting back to these stairs, Mice Chat mentioned about how difficult they are to navigate with a stroller or a wheelchair, which obviously is correct. And that also make me think that they think that this is one of the affected areas, or could be one of the affected areas. That's another case where I hope that Mice Chat is incorrect. Because, I mean, I've got a kid, and I've pushed her around on a stroller here on a number of occasions. I'm okay with it, I really am. I'm okay with, going all the way down to Haunted Mansion to use that path that isn't a step to get my stroller up there, or taking this other route, making a left up here instead of the right on the lower half. I'm okay with that. That's a small price to pay, in my opinion. It's a small price to pay for this. Per the OC Register, some of the raised platforms and stairs along the river near Pirates will be lowered, and I'm hoping that this is what they mean, is this area right here. That is reasonable. Those areas, though they do contribute to the aesthetic of New Orleans Square right here, I mean, a lot. I do kind of feel like they could be expendable for a good cause. If you've ever, this is one area where I would agree that traffic at Pirates needs a solution, because as I mentioned at the outset of this show, the queue, the extended queue starts out here, right? And then it cuts back, or it goes around to the bridge, and then they do a switch back here. And if it gets longer than that, that's when the queue starts to get into the 30 or 40 minute range. They have to cross this path and take that, just follow these green walls on the other side, and that's where the Pirates extended queue goes. But if there's nobody here to manage that queue, right here where this brick wall ends, if that queue is allowed to pass all the way to this light pole right here, then it's impossible for guests who are trying to get to Royal Street or anywhere in this part of New Orleans Square. It's impossible for them to get from here to there when this queue is being unmanaged, when it is full. They have to go all the way around all the way down to where that green wall ends. You've got to go all the way back there and then come around the backside of New Orleans Square. So naturally, I could definitely see why a solution is needed there. And my hope is that they're going to build some sort of defined extended queue behind these walls, something that is permanent, because it's very it's very ad hoc. They're putting up ropes and taking down ropes on a constant basis, because they have to run it along this section. They have to basically extend. Look how wide open this is right now. I don't know if you can picture that. This is way more wide open than it usually is, because there's normally ropes out here. See that crack right there? Or that seam? Right about where that seam is where the ropes would extend out to create that artificial extended queue, which limits us to this little slice right here. Now, as I mentioned, I'm kind of used to it. I'm okay with it. I've been dealing with that for 10 years or whatever. But it is, I guess I get it, right? I just hope it doesn't come at the expense of too much of what we're seeing here, that they're able to preserve as much of this as possible. These planters, the statues, the trees, all the landscaping here, and again, the multi-layered effect of, it's not really an effect, it's a real thing. The layered approach to New Orleans Square is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I hope they find a way to preserve it. And I will say, in their defense, as I turn around, you guys remember Project Stardust? Right there. I think it's right there where that light pole is. There used to be a planter, not a big one, but a planter kind of like this, but small. They took that out. They took that out as part of Project Stardust, and I mean, I don't think anybody misses it. I'm normally one who is, a purist and a stickler for that kind of thing, and never once have I walked by there and said, gosh, I missed that planter. There are planters that I do miss, but never that one. I have to say, thinking about it, what they've been doing recently in the parks, some people may not agree with me, but they've been doing okay. The updates that we've seen them do in the parks of late, post-COVID, I've been good with. I like what they did with the holiday shop, with Merlin's Marvelous Miscellany, with Pelican Landing is wonderful. And that Pelican Landing came at the cost of a planter. So I have to believe, I have to have hope and faith that they're gonna handle this with grace and ability. But like I said, I'm always afraid. I love this place so much. I love New Orleans Square so much. I love the aesthetic of these places so much that they're not gonna be treated with respect and care. But like I said, based on their current or recent history here at Disneyland, I have to think I have reason to be optimistic. One thing though, before we conclude this video, one thing that does scare me legitimately. When the news of Pirates of the Caribbean going down for refurb first happened, we reported that these two trees that are in the Pirates queue, the exterior queue, were going to be removed as part of that update because they're dying. That created another emotional response from me and a lot of people who watch this show. But when I heard that story, or from who I heard that story, they mentioned another tree was in danger. I don't know if it's official, and I'm not even sure if I've got the right tree or not, but the person I spoke with said it was a fig tree, and that Disney was trying to get rid of trees that drop fruit on the ground. Fig trees drop figs, obviously. That tree, right over my shoulder, I believe is a fig tree. I believe it is the fig tree that the person was discussing. Yeah, that tree. I'm fairly confident that is a fig tree, and that is the fig tree in question, especially considering the proximity that is to Pirates of the Caribbean. And this one really concerns me because just of its importance to the meaning that it has to New Orleans Square. It is part of our DNA. When we walk through here, it just belongs here in a lot of ways because of its physical stature, its size, the scope, how much presence it has here in the land. But there's also history to it. The Evans brothers, who are renowned, well known for their part in building the landscape of Disneyland, literally the landscaping. They scoured all of Southern California trying to, discover as many trees as possible, grown trees, to put in this park. And this tree was given to them by an oil company. And Disney's proud of this tree. In a lot of ways, they include this. I even know this story because of the horticulture tour that we took many years ago, and they include this tree in its story. It was donated by an oil company, and there is still, to this day, embedded in the roots of this tree underground. I don't know how far down it goes, how big it is, but there's still at least part of an oil pipe because it was connected. It had grown. The tree had grown around it, and you couldn't take it apart or you couldn't remove it from the roots of the tree. I mean, that's cool. That's really cool, and that's something that they're just. I just hope that they don't. I hope that this is a case where I'm going to literally beg Disney, if you're watching, don't take this tree out. Especially not for a reason as benign as because it drops fruit. It only happens during, as I understand it, fig trees only drop fruit during the summer. And yeah, it would probably drop right here in this path, and people probably step on it. It'll probably stain the concrete, but it's not permanent. It can be cleaned. I really hate this idea. I really, really hate it. But I have to say, full disclosure, this is just a rumor. You know, based on what I heard from somebody who, but they were right about these trays, I think. But hopefully they're not right about this. The good news about all of this in New Orleans Square is that it's all being done to make the park a better place, to make the park a more comfortable place, specifically to make Fantasmic a better show. I am in love with Fantasmic. It is a fantastic show, and I cannot wait for its return May 28th. That is they're proposing that these changes that we've been talking about with the queue, Pirates of the Caribbean, the trees, and with the walkways and flattening of New Orleans Square, that's all supposed to be done, hopefully, or close to the return of Fantasmic, if, you know, the end of May, maybe into the early part of June, who knows. But I'm hoping that it is done by then. That is the goal. So thanks for watching, everybody. Do be sure to follow us on Instagram at _FreshBake, on Twitter at FreshBakeDisney, that's Fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakeDisney. We got our website also, freshbakedisney.com. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbake. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. We love you very much. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Bake.